Well, hello, friend, and welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Within. I'm in a different spot in the woods, and, well, I'm just out hiking today, and because the Spirit put me out here. Well, I'll tell you, I was just looking at The Kingdom Within, and I boost these ads so they go out to folks that don't know me so that they can, people can hear the message of Jesus. And it's not that I want you to believe the way I say it. I want you to get to know that what Jesus said and read. I want you to understand what Jesus said. And, well, the truth is the church isn't saying it the way he said it, so I have a tendency to say what he said, and sometimes it riles people up. I give my own interpretation, and sometimes people don't like that. Friend, the church has this going on like Jesus was saying something and that it was the same as what Moses said, but that's not true. The reason what Jesus said was different was because he came at a different time. The church wants to say there is no evolution, but man's been evolving, and friend, if you haven't evolved from back in those days, well then, I don't know what to tell you. Then you don't know that Jesus, because that Jesus called you to love those who hate you and forgive those who condemn you, and that doesn't include stoning women for committing adultery. You see, that's what they came with him to trick him with that, because that was the laws of Moses, friends. So if you think that's what Jesus said, then why didn't Jesus just say, yeah, go ahead and stone her? That's what the law of Moses said. I'll tell you why, because Jesus didn't come to tell you how to rise or to how to abide in the law. He came to teach you how to rise in the spirit of it, and that was the true nature of my Father and what my Father wanted from that firstborn to teach you. The problem is when you invalidate everything he said by saying that you get a free ticket to the kingdom in your death if you believe he died on the cross for you, you throw away everything he said, and you might as well just go back to just abiding in that Moses law and go stone people because you think because you believe in Jesus you can kill people. And that isn't what Jesus said. So I'm not here to be right or wrong, because if you believe that, then I'm wrong. But I'm here to cause people to ask questions, because that's all that I really want is I want you to think about what it is you're thinking about and think about, is that worth a thought to have? The reason is because there's people out there that are really looking for this love of Christ, and they can't find it because of the hypocrisy that's going on with the followers. And it's not that you're wrong for being hypocrites, because I'm a hypocrite, friend. I'm the first here to tell you that I am a hypocrite. But since I'm admitting it, I'm hoping that you might look and see what that Jesus said, even though us that follow him don't do a perfect job. We're often doing the best we can, and, well, the truth of the matter is none of us got taught what Jesus said. We all got taught what that church told us, and that church didn't say what Jesus said. They said all kinds of other stuff. So I'm telling you, if you're getting this, if you're hearing this message and you're in pain and you want to stop being in pain and you want to find some forgiveness for yourself, well, then my Father will give it to you through that firstborn, but don't expect to find it in that church, because they still think that there's really evil and that evil is evil, and they don't understand that my Father is the love they seek, and everything he creates he's in. I realize there's evil people on this planet, friend, but they still have a spark of my Father in them, and if we get to them, well, if we loved them like Jesus asked, they might not be killing us. Instead, they might be loving us. That's what happened, see, friend, is people taught me. I didn't know this love. I didn't come from the light, I come from the dark. Even though, depending on what you call dark, it didn't like I was that dark, but I was dark nonetheless. I was a drunk. Things happened to me when I was young, and I blamed everybody else for it. Turns out there's nobody to blame except this world and this thought of Satan. And I forgive it, because that's its job. Its job is to deceive us. My Father didn't want it around. He got rid of it a long time ago. That's kind of what upsets me about this church a lot of times, is that they're talking and blaming this thought of Satan, yet they hold on to it tightly and love it every day. This thought of Satan is selfishness. So if you're being selfish, if you're hoarding all the things in your life and giving very little to others and then justifying hypocrisy, well, that's fine, but don't say Jesus said that was okay, because he didn't. He said getting a rich man into the kingdom is like trying to get a camel through the eye of a needle, and he wasn't lying about that. I've seen a camel go through the eye of a needle, though, friend. I have. A man gave me some money one time, loaned me money, and I was unable to pay him back, and he forgave me my debt. He became one of the biggest Christ-like people I ever met. So, turns out that he might have had a lot of money, but it was really my father's, and all he did with it was what my father wanted him to. And I look at what he did, and he was just this Christ-like man that had a lot of money, but it didn't have anything to do with who he was or the way he treated people. He treated everybody just like Christ said to. Problem is, quite often money and power kind of go hand in hand, and people get power hungry. That man had no power. He just had humility everywhere. I don't know how to explain that. He owned a big corporation. If I mentioned his name, everybody'd know it. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not here to glorify anybody. My Father wants to glorify him. He'll glorify him for himself. But what I know is that it's people like that gave me forgiveness when I deserved none, that set me down this path, because I couldn't give myself forgiveness. I filed bankruptcy, which led me to thinking about suicide for, a number of years, because the only thing I ever had kind of in my life at one point was my word. And, my word became no good, so I kind of figured I was no good either, and could never figure out how to come up with all that money I owed people, so I filed bankruptcy, and when I lost my business, and turns out that president, he says that that's just a business tool and that you shouldn't be ashamed, and you ought to just bankrupt on everybody and just love it because it's a tool. But I don't believe that. I have a real hard time with that. I had to do it because, that's what happened. And if my father gives me the money, then I'll somehow, someday, make what was wrong right. But it doesn't matter, because what happened was, through that process, I learned that forgiveness from that guy, and I ended up with this thing called the love of Christ, because some man forgave me my debt when I didn't deserve it. Then I had to try to figure out why it is he did that. And turns out he was a follower of that Jesus. But I'll tell you, that's what happens when you're doing good things and you're trying to love people that hate you and forgive people their debts. The people that are around you that are seeing what you're doing, they're trying to figure out why you're doing that. That's what Jesus was talking about. So I don't try to do anything special, because I can't do anything special. It's my Father that has to give me the forgiveness. That's one thing I've learned, is this world doesn't have enough love and forgiveness on its own. A man standing on his own can love those that love him, but has a hard time loving those that hate him. And Jesus said we had to do that, and that's because that's what that Father does. He loves those that hate him. Jesus told us that, but he said it in a secret way. And, a lot of people still think the Father's going to judge. Jesus said the Father won't judge. He said the Father sent him to judge, and even he didn't judge. The people he judged were righteous. So if you're feeling self-righteous and thinking you're more than my Father's children, well, then maybe I might be saying something that might upset you, because, I've come to see that a lot of people like to pretend they're more because they think they're going to heaven because they accepted Jesus' death, and that's not what Jesus said. That's what the church said, and the church lied, because the church didn't say what Jesus said, because Jesus said over and over again, you have to forgive to be forgiven. He said he was going to deny his own disciples at the end of the age, the ones that prophesied and cast out demons in his name. And I can tell you, friend, everybody I know that does that believe Jesus died on the cross for their sins. Yet he said he's going to still deny you at the end of the age. Maybe you ought to look into what he said and see what that's all about. Because that church, it'll tell you whatever you want to hear as long as you give it its cut. Let's look at the Middle Ages, friend. They were burning people and calling them all kinds of stuff to make sure that you stayed with their message so that nobody got greedy and thought they might know something for themselves. But that just is what it is. I'm not saying the church is still like that. I'm saying it's trying not to be, but the problem is it's still got greed in it because it still owns a bunch of stuff. I've heard churches talk against churches, and I get all confused on that one. But I do know that Jesus said, call no man father but your Father in heaven. And well, a lot of these churches are still calling their priests father. What's that about? If you believe Jesus was the light in the way and he said not to, why? Why did you do it, and why does the church want you to call them father? Why do they want you to put them ahead of yourself? Why do they want you to believe that they're something special when they're nothing? There isn't one priest on this planet, friend, that is any more than you are, and I don't care who you are. Every one of my Father's children are equal. This isn't about me being glorified, because there's nothing glory about me. There's nothing to be glorified. I'm your equal because Jesus said I was, and that's the way it is. I don't care if you're red, yellow, black, or white. You're all precious in His sight, and therefore you've got to be all precious in mine. Even if my eyes lie to me, I'll just know that they lie to me because, I'm just like everybody else. I got taught one truth when I was young instead of this truth, and I love this truth of Jesus far more than the one the world gave me. So the world can have its truth, and though I still see sometimes things that don't make any sense to me, and fear still wants to come up upon me, I just know that's that thought of Satan lying to me. And Jesus said, forgive everyone their debts and you'll be forgiven yours. And so I just forgive everybody their debts and so I can be forgiven mine. All right, friend. Well, guess I'm going to get back on the trail here and get back to hiking. Just know that I love you because my Father loves you, and you're worth loving because I'm worth loving, because if you're not, then I'm not. And darn it, I spent half of my life, well, more than half of my life, a lot of my life, hating me. And I don't have to hate me anymore because I love my Father in heaven, but to love Him, I had to love the firstborn, and I've got to love you too. So if I need to love you in order to love me, well, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because that's what that Jesus said to do. So, may God bless you and yours.